Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Thursday, January 29th, 2026.
And if you're a landlord or a tenant in England, you're probably feeling this weird quiet.
It's a very deceptive silence, isn't it?
Mhm.
It feels like the calm before the storm.
It really is. The Renters' Rights Act got royal assent back in October, but for months it's just been, text on a page.
Exactly. And that is all about to change. The rubber is finally hitting the road, and we are staring right at phase one of the rollout.
The timeline is much, much tighter than people think.
So that's our mission today. We're going to take the official gov.uk guidance, the roadmap they put out in November, and some legal analysis, and just turn it into a survival guide.
We need to cut through the noise. I mean, everyone's heard Section 21 is ending.
Right, that's the headline.
But the devil is in the detail. There are specific dates that will get you into serious trouble if you miss them.
Yeah, these use it or lose it deadlines are what worry me. If you're not looking at your calendar, you could be caught out. So let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, segment one, the Big Bang. There is one date everyone needs to know.
May 1st, 2026. Circle it, highlight it. That's the one.
And why is this date such a hard line in the sand? Usually these things are phased in, right? New rules for new contracts.
They've thrown that playbook out. This is a big bang. On May 1st, the new system applies to everyone.
Everyone. So even if my contract was signed 5 years ago?
It doesn't matter. Existing tenancies convert. New tenancies fall under the new rules instantly. No two-tier system.
Wow. Okay, so we're all in the same boat. And the first thing to go overboard on that day is the fixed term.
Correct. This is essentially the death of the assured short hold penancy, the AST, which has been the default for decades.
Right.
As of May 1st, all tenancies become what are called assured periodic tenancies.
Okay, let's break that down. An AST was a promise to stay for 12 months. You promised not to kick me out.
Exactly. It was a lock-in for both sides. A periodic tenancy is, well, it's more like a subscription. It just rolls on month by month with no end date.
So if a tenant wants to leave?
They just give 2 months notice anytime. That's it.
That is a massive shift. So someone could move in, decide they don't like the neighbors a week later, and be gone in 2 months.
Theoretically, yes. The whole thing is built around tenant flexibility. But for landlords, that guarantee of income for 12 months it's gone.
And the landlord can't just say time's up either.
Nope. Because the contract never ends until the tenant says so, or unless the landlord has a very specific legal reason.
Which brings us to the other big one for May 1st, the ban on Section 21.
The no-fault eviction. Gone. From May 1st, for every tenancy, new or old, you cannot use it.
So to get your property back, you have to prove your case. You have to use Section 8.
Yes, the with cause route. You go to court, you state your grounds. Now, to be fair, they have expanded the Section 8 grounds to balance things out.
I was looking at that. It's not like you can never get your property back.
Of course not. If you want to sell the property, for example, or if you or your close family need to move in, those are now mandatory grounds.
Mandatory meaning the judge has to agree.
It means if you can prove it, the judge must grant possession. Their hands are tied.
But there's a catch with the timing on that, isn't there?
A huge one. You can't use those grounds selling or moving in during the first 12 months of a tenancy.
The first year is protected.
And you have to give 4 months notice?
4 months.
4. So if you're a landlord thinking you might sell soon, you really need to think twice before letting your property out now.
What about for, bad tenants? Rent arrears.
Still covered, but with changes. The main rent arrears ground used to be triggered at 2 months of arrears.
Right.
They've raised that to 3 months. And the notice period is up from 2 weeks to 4. It's designed to give tenants a bit more breathing room.
Okay. So that's the new world from May 1st. But let's rewind to right now, because this is what you call the transition trap.
And it is a trap. This is where the biggest compliance risk is right now.
So let's do a scenario. I'm a landlord. It's January. I serve a Section 21 notice today. What happens on May 1st? Does it just vanish?
Not immediately. But you are now on a very, very aggressive clock.
Right.
If a valid Section 21 notice was served before May 1st, it stays valid for a limited time, but there's a hard stop.
What's the deadline?
July 31st, 2026.
Right.
You have to have started court proceedings by that date. If you haven't, the notice is void. Dead.
Wait, so let me get this straight. A Section 21 notice is usually valid for 6 months.
Correct.
But the government is saying, we don't care. Your deadline is July 31st. It's a use it or lose it cliff edge.
Precisely. If you mill that window, the notice is invalid, and because it's after May 1st, you can't issue a new one. You're stuck.
That is a massive risk. If you're sitting on a notice, you need to act now.
It's an absolute priority. The government wants the old system flushed out of the courts by the summer.
Okay, let's switch to money. There are some big changes to how rent is set and paid. Let's start with the end of the bidding war.
Yes, a huge problem in big cities. You see a flat advertised for 2,000, you get there, and the agent says you'll need to offer 2,200 to get it. It's basically an auction.
And that is now illegal. Landlords and agents must publish an asking rent, and they are legally banned from encouraging or accepting offers above that price.
You can't even accept it. So if I, as a tenant, say, look, take an extra 100 quid, I need this place.
The landlord has to say no. The price on the tin is the maximum price, and the penalty for breaking that is up to £7,000.
Wow. That changes everything. It rewards being first in line, not richest.
It does. And to help with that, they've also capped rent in advance.
Ah, so no more asking for 6 or 12 months rent up front.
Banned. It's capped at 1 month's rent. It's to stop landlords from using huge upfront cash demands to get around proper affordability checks.
Okay, so that's getting in. What about once you're in? Rent increases.
The Wild West is over. Those automatic rent review clauses in contracts,
Rent increases by 5% every year.
all void. Banned. A landlord can only raise the rent once a year, and they have to use the formal Section 13 notice process.
2 months' notice on a specific form. And the increase can only be to market rates.
But who decides market rate? That's where the arguments start.
Well, the tenant can challenge it at the first-tier tribunal. And here's the clever bit. In the past, tenants were terrified of doing that
Why?
because the tribunal could look at the evidence and say, actually, the landlord's only asking for a £100 increase, but the market rate is £200 higher. They could raise it beyond what the landlord asked for.
What a spectacular own goal.
A huge risk. But the new act removes that. The tribunal can no longer increase the rent beyond the landlord's proposed figure.
So there's no downside for the tenant to challenge it now.
None at all. It puts all the pressure on the landlord to have their evidence ready to justify the price.
Let's talk paperwork. We have this massive switch on May 1st. Do landlords have to shred all their old contracts?
Thankfully, no. The government has been quite pragmatic here. For existing tenancies, the old contracts remain. The law simply overrides the bits that are no longer valid, like the fixed term.
But you have to tell the tenant about that, surely.
You do. And this is the next compliance hurdle. All landlords must serve a new government-produced information sheet on every tenant.
What's on this sheet?
It's basically a summary of all their new rights, the move to periodic tenancies, the Section 21 ban, all of it. The government is publishing it in March.
And the deadline to send it out.
May 31st, 2026. You have that 1-month window after the law changes to get it to them.
And if you have a verbal agreement.
It doesn't matter. You still have to provide a written summary of the terms and this information sheet by the same date.
So the takeaway is March, download the form. May, send it to everyone.
Simple as that. It's an easy win. Don't miss it.
Okay, let's move on to some of the lifestyle changes. Access, discrimination, pets.
Yes. The act is very clear. It's now illegal to have a blanket ban on tenants with children or tenants who receive benefits.
So the no DSS ads are officially illegal.
Gone. And any clause in a mortgage or insurance policy that forces a landlord to do that is now void as well.
So a landlord can't hide behind their mortgage lender anymore.
No, but this is the key nuance. You can still do affordability checks. You can still say no if the rent is more than their income. That's just math. You just can't discriminate based on the source of the income.
Got it. Now the big one, pets.
The right to request. A tenant can ask to have a pet, and a landlord cannot unreasonably refuse.
Ah, the million-dollar word. Unreasonable. What does that mean?
Well, refusing a Great Dane in a tiny studio flat would probably be reasonable. Refusing a hamster in a 3-bed house would be unreasonable. It's about suitability.
And the landlord has to respond, right? They can't just ignore the request.
No, there's a 28-day deadline to respond in writing.
And can you charge a pet rent?
No, that's banned under the Tenant Fees Act. What you can do under this new act is require the tenant to get insurance to cover any pet damage.
So you're protected against damage, but you can't profit from the pet's existence.
That's the balance they've aimed for.
We've covered the May deadline, but this is just phase 1, what's coming later in the year.
The digital infrastructure. Late 2026, we get the new private rented sector database.
This is more than just the old rogue landlord list.
Oh, much more. Registration will be mandatory for all landlords. You'll pay a fee, upload your safety certificates. It's basically your license to operate. If you're not on it, you can't evict.
And the ombudsman.
Also mandatory. All landlords have to join. It's a way for tenants to resolve disputes over things like repairs without having to go to court.
And phase 3 is much further down the line.
That's the long game. Applying the decent homes standard to the private sector, that's likely a 2035 thing for most existing homes. So the focus for now has to be May.
Let's talk about the teeth. The enforcement. What happens if you get this wrong?
The penalties are serious. Civil penalties start at around £7,000 for things like rental bidding. For repeat offenders, it can be up to $40,000 or even prosecution.
But the one that really stood out to me was the change to rent repayment orders.
This is the biggest financial threat to landlords. An RRO is where a tenant can claim back rent if you've broken certain laws.
And it used to be capped at 12 months of rent.
It did. They have doubled it.
Wow.
It is now up to 24 months of rent.
2 years rent.
2 full years. On a £2,000 a month property, that's a £48,000 liability.
And they've also closed a loophole on those rent-to-rent schemes.
Yes. Now tenants can pursue the superior landlord, the actual property owner, for the money. You can't hide behind a shell company anymore.
So you have to know who you're letting your property to. You can't just outsource the risk.
Exactly.
Okay, let's wrap this up. If you're listening to this, what are the top 4 things you absolutely must do right now?
1. Adjust your mindset. Prepare for periodic tenancies from May 1st. Your business model has to adapt to tenants being able to leave with 2 months' notice.
2.
Audit your evictions. If you have a Section 21 notice in play, your hard deadline for court action is July 31st. Do not miss it.
3.
Paperwork. Look for the government's information sheet in March. Send it to every tenant by May 31st.
And 4.
Stop the old tricks. No more bidding wars. No more asking for 6 months rent up front. Set a price and stick to it.
Great summary. Now for our final thought. You mentioned a potential unintended consequence of all this. A market freeze.
I did. The entire philosophy here is flexibility for tenants, the power to move easily.
Right.
But I wonder if it will have the opposite effect.
How so?
Well, if you're a tenant and you've got a decent place at a fair rent and you know you can never be asked to leave without cause, why would you ever move?
You have total security.
You'd hunker down. We might see the churn in the market just stop. If nobody moves out, no new stock becomes available for people who need to move.
So giving people the right to move might actually give them every incentive to stay put.
It's the paradox of it. We could see supply get even tighter.
A paradox of security. That is definitely something to watch as this year unfolds.
Indeed.
That's all we have time for on this deep dive. Good luck with the deadlines, and we'll see you next time.